All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is like the tone of the game and the puzzles and interactivity. So obviously the game is super creepy and it's meant to be, and that really affects the overall telling of the story. And this creepiness factor is created by a number of different things, which are pretty obvious. Um, but in terms of so one of the first things you probably notice in this game actually is the sound. Uh, there's very little or very sparse music, especially at first. There's no music. It's just kind of these ambient forest sounds. There's the sound of rain falling throughout the environment. There's the sounds of the splash when he goes in the water. And then when underwater, the sounds get very muffled. Um, and there's the sounds of the dogs barking and the kind of jarring sounds of gunshots. All of this contributes to a tone that's, highly, it's just not a comfortable place to be. Obviously, the boy is under threat. And then there's this really cool moment, and throughout the game, there are these moments where there's the introduction of atmospheric music or more musical sounds and these are often kind of coordinated with big plot points. So the music enters the first time the boy encounters, or the music swells or starts the first time the boy encounters a factory or an inside environment that is obviously owned and run or controlled in some fashion by the people who oversee his world, the sort of faceless people in the background that are obviously somehow responsible for the world the way it is and threaten this boy in some way. So it's really a kind of beautiful moment in like a terrifying way when the sound starts as you enter that factory. Another thing, obviously, there are things that you see throughout the world clearly, and these are chosen very carefully by the game designers. And one of the things that you might notice early on is these strange connected pods that like dot the landscape that seem to be incubating something. There are walls with barbed wire. You can see the rain falling down. You can see underwater because we have this kind of you know sectioned sort of diorama look into the boy's world. There's the cornfield, which is an homage to horror movies. Um, there's the sites of rural decay and livestock that they're just lying dead in piles. There's severe lighting effects with the lightning. Or no, I'm not sure if there's lightning, but severe lighting. So it's very highly contrasted and grayscale. There's very little color throughout this world. It's blanketed in fog, and we see sick or infected animals that we don't quite understand. In addition, the tone of this story is created by the actions of the little boy and the other NPCs. They're called non-player characters. So there are the people with flashlights, and there are dogs that are running around and being aggressive and then attacking and killing the boy. He's being chased by sort of these faceless humans, and there's at one point in the introduction, there's a flock of baby chickens, and importantly, there are no adult chickens present. So it's these babies on their own clustered together. And there is also in the introductory sequence kind of a crazed or angry or infected pig that seems to attack the boy and kind of doesn't know what's going on. So there's this kind of element of confusion that's implied by that. And finally, after we have the sound sights and actions of the different protagonists of the little boy and the NPCs, we also have the puzzles and interactivity that contribute to the tone. And the puzzles and interactivity is interesting because it like makes you slow down and actually focus on different elements of the game and different pieces of the environment. And so we see the refrigerator that's just been discarded and laying there, or a random box, and you grab onto these exposed tree roots, which is just, very raw and kind of naked seeming. So the interactivity in particular in this game makes you kind of focus in on the environment and not lose track of what's going on inside the environment. So it's really important piece of tone in the story, which is lost if you're just watching the video to some degree, because you're not required when watching someone else play to actually notice in the same kind of deep way or kind of track the different pieces of the environment that could either be threats or aids in successfully completing this narrative. So those are the 4 different things that I kind of want you to think about in terms of how the tone is created: the sounds, sights, actions, and the puzzles and interactivity.